He's a better tackler, and I'm sorry, he is just purely a nastier person on and off the field. And I don't know him off the field, but just the way the dude looks, I think he's got more of an edge and an attitude that affords him to be a better defensive back in the end as a finished product than what Kevin King is. Kevin King seems like a nice guy and soft spoken. Tony Brown's a dog, and you need dogs on defense. And he's not just a dog that's just a dog. He's a dog that can play and has some damn good skills and has Olympic track speed. I don't understand, Ryan and Dave, why people don't recognize this kid for what he is and don't like him. Can you explain it to me? I don't get it.
Ryan, you go first, brother.
Well, I don't know. It's hard. I can't speak for people other than myself, but I haven't seen the hate for Tony Brown. But maybe I don't follow as many people. I only really follow people that I feel like have some decent takes. So if you're following a lot of people that maybe have bad takes, you're seeing that take more often. But for everyone that I know,
it really has to do, Ryan, when it comes up in the conversation, it's brought up that Kevin King, as great as he is, he's not going to be missed as much because Tony Brown. So when you bring that up, then we get
he's becoming expendable.
Right. When we try to bring up the fact that we're not saying that, yes, just because Tony Brown's good, cut Kevin King. What we're trying to tell people is I'm not worried about Kevin King's injury as much anymore because I've seen that Tony Brown can definitely fill his shoes, if not play better. We just don't know. But I have confidence that he can play the same, if not better. And people just go nuts. And it's just hate. Oh, he's not as good this. He's not. I guess it has to do with the correlation because I guess there's so much love for Kevin King, Ryan, that when you try to bring up any point that this kid is just as good or potentially could be better because he is faster and more physical.
It's strictly based on Kevin King was a second round at the first of the top of the second round draft pick, and Tony Brown was not. That's really the difference.
There was also another part of that. The fact that Kevin King was basically traded down for to take over T.J. Watt. I feel like people are trying to believe so hard that he can still work out because they missed on guys like T.J. Watt. I feel like that's why if he doesn't work out, it looks like another failed pick for Ted Thompson. And I'm not bashing Ted Thompson here, but his last 4 years, his cons and his picks outweigh his pros by a mile. And Kevin King, yes, as a second round pick, I'm all for it, even with the injuries coming out of Washington. But I didn't think he was going to be this bad. And the fact that when Tony Brown came out and had 5 pass breakups against DeAndre Hopkins in 2 joint practices combined, it solidified it for me right there. If you can come out and play that way against Hopkins, you can do it.
And a quick note, anybody out there that doesn't think that's a big deal about DeAndre Hopkins, this is a fact.
That's the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Last year, this is why I say DeAndre Hopkins is bar none the number 1 receiver in the entire league, followed by none other than Devontae Adams. And here's why. This made it absolutely undeniably this fact right here from last year. DeAndre Hopkins in 2018 had 110 receptions and 0 drops. 0 drops. First in NFL history to have that many receptions and 0 that doesn't have with you now, because you can't have that many receptions and no drops and not be considered the best receiver in the game. Sorry, that qualifies and wins you that position with that stat alone. Period. Point blank. Sorry, I just wanted to get that in.
If it was right now, I would take Jair and Tony Brown on the outside in a day, and they ask, well, what about Kevin King? You know what? If we did keep him, I have no problem putting him in as maybe trying him at slot corner since Tremon's having trouble, or just basically save him third on the depth chart, because to me, Tony Brown has earned it 100%.
Yeah, I mean, I can't argue that. I think Tony Brown I'm comfortable. If Tony Brown has to start and he's on an outside cornerback receiver spot, I'm good with it. To me, he's showing what I need to see from a cornerback. So yeah, no, we're good with that. I'm not getting rid of Kevin King though. So
No, I didn't say get rid of him. I said as a third. Like he's going to be backup to that. I have no problem with it. But
yeah.
I need to see him. I mean, maybe move him to slot corner might help his health. Who knows? Maybe it's just him on the outside. His body isn't able to keep up with it. That's why I'm looking at.
I think the whole idea of like outside cornerback, slot cornerback is completely interchangeable these days. I think it all depends on matchups. Because if you've got the type of slot wide receivers that are the short, quick, shifty ones, I'd rather have Jair Alexander on those guys. But if you've got like the slot wide receiver that we're talking about in this offense, like a Geronimo Allison or Equanimous St. Brown, who's a little bit taller, not like the quick, shifty type guys, then I'd rather have Kevin King, on a slot receiver like that. I think it's all, you're a cornerback. I don't care if you're outside, if you're inside, slot, whatever, doesn't matter. It's all about the matchups. So the nice thing about like guys like Kevin King and Jair Alexander and I think Tony Brown is that they're pretty versatile. They're pretty interchangeable from what I can tell.
Yeah, I think I absolutely agree. If I have my 3 cornerback choice at this point with this roster and everybody's healthy, in a nickel, Jair's playing the inside, and Tony Brown and Kevin King are my outside guys. And except for in the scenarios that you just placed. Then you switch either Brown or King, whoever you feel is better in that slot position on that taller receiver. But I definitely believe that all things being equal, that Jair is the guy you want because that dude just, like, there's greasy hips and then there's whatever you want to call his hips. Like, he's got, like, cop hips. Like,
okay.
Those things swivel on the 360 axis.
I got to say this. You said if healthy, Jay. The thing is, King isn't healthy. That's the problem. Like, he's not healthy. So, I mean, I can't grade him on the term of if healthy. I mean, hell,
right
Kadar
there.
Hallman has outplayed him.
You're
Kadar Hallman has outplayed King this freaking training camp and preseason. I mean,
Rule
I
1
think
of football is your best ability is availability. It's Rule 1. And so I can't argue with that argument. You can't argue with that, but, like, I guess we're trying to paint pretty scenarios here. And Dave, you're living in reality. It's okay.
Yeah, well, that's what the biggest Kevin King backers are. Is when he's healthy. Dusty Evely, I love you, brother, but I know you're a Kevin King backer. But dude, when is it time to pull the plug and make him take a step back and let the guy who's performing just as good to put in? That's my thing. Love you, Dusty. King doesn't do it for me anymore on the outside as a starter.
On another positive note, another one of our friend of the show had a pretty decent showing tonight, and he's even dealing with a quad injury. Our friend, Big Boy Kingsley Kiki had a few TFLs and some splash plays there, making his name with the second team unit there on the defensive line, playing his favorite position at 3 technique. Definitely looks like the young man is learning a few different pass rushing moves, and he's developing quite nicely for a guy that is considered to be a pretty raw but athletic freak on that rotation. So shout out to our friend of the show and our first player that we got to talk to as a guest, Mr. Kingsley Kiki, on another good preseason outing.
He looked solid. I mean, good. Sorry, Ryan. Go ahead.
No, I like Kiki. I liked him a lot coming out of the draft, and I'm gonna say this, something that I've been thinking about since the draft, but I just never really, I guess, was bold enough to say it. I honestly believe, and they haven't shown anything yet, nothing for me to really say without a doubt, but I'm going to just say it now. I think this is going to be the best draft in 10 years the Packers have had. I honestly believe that. I really like this draft. They've got a long way to go. They haven't shown anything yet, but just based on what I saw on their tape coming out of college, based on what I've seen in preseason and or in training camp, or based on reports from people at training camp, I think this draft class is going to be really good when it's all said and done. And Kingsley Kiki's part of that.
I think you nailed it. And what makes that such a great statement and such a thing that could really likely be a very true statement from what you just said, Ryan, it's not first, second, third round. It's that 4th through 7th round, those guys, you look at every one of those guys and you're going, he could have been a 3rd rounder. He could have been a 4th rounder. I could see him as a 2nd rounder or that second, early 3rd rounder. Like, even with our 7th round kid in Summers, you could definitely see him going in a higher round, late 4th, early 5th. With what
people even said when he was drafted, he was supposed to go in the 5th.
And even Kingsley. People couldn't believe that he was around when we drafted him. They're like, oh, I thought he was going to be gone in the 3rd round because he'd shown his college tape. He was just productive, right? And so I think that's the cool thing about this draft class. That was an awesome thing. I'm glad you brought it up, Ryan. It was the back half of this draft class, round 4 through 7. Those guys you look at and you're going, those guys were steals essentially when you drafted them for what you see, again, like you said, on tape, and they're showing you they're not fringe guys to make this roster. I think all the draft picks honestly have a spot on this 53. Honestly, at the end of the day,
they all have an impact at some level.
They all do.
I don't think any of them end up on the practice squad, and that's a big deal when you're talking about 8 or 9 draft picks this year. That's a big deal. So that was an excellent point, Ryan. Really good insight there. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, kind of like deja vu with that. If you go back and look at Ron Wolf's drafts he had, most of the draft lists he had from each year made the 53. They weren't sitting on the practice squads. And you look at Ted the past couple of years, when he was in, a lot of his late-round picks were just going straight to practice squad or waivers. And we didn't keep a lot of the late-rounders. Gutekunst has been not, I know this draft has been good too, but you look at last year as well, the late-rounders, you took a punter? Yep, look what he's doing. J.K. Scott in training camp and preseason has been
snapper.
And look, we've had no problems in special teams hiking the ball at all.
I have no problem fixing a broken and tattered and horrible unit in our team with draft capital because you control those guys. J.K. Scott has turned into be a stud punter. And look, long snappers play forever. Like, if you're going to spend a 5th or 6th round pick on a position and get value out of it, long snapper there, especially when you consider, like you had said years prior, those picks are nowhere to be found. So why not use it on something like that where it
5th or 6th rounds for Thompsons didn't even make the 53.
It improved a part of our team that had been woeful for a long time, and it was worth the draft capital. I had no issue with it last year, but that's a great point. This is almost back-to-back years now where you're seeing and we're talking back half of the draft, guys, because most all second, third round picks, even 4th round picks, most of the time those guys are making the roster, even if it's special teams the first year. We just have not seen rosters since back in the day where you could just look at the guy, even when you watch his tape coming out of college. I'm sure you could say this, Ryan. Years past with Ted Thompson, like he said, you'd look at that guy and you'd go, yeah, you just knew he was practice squad from the day they drafted him, kind of thing. It didn't have this feel to it.
Not at all. There's not a single player. The only one that is maybe fringe is Ty Summers based on tonight's tape because he missed a lot of tackles. But
Bolton showed out.
Yeah, and Bolton showed out. But because of the lack of bodies at that position right now in this depth chart on this team, he's going to be on it. So other than that, I mean, if you go up and down this draft class, they're all making this roster.
But that's a 7th rounder, though, on the fringe. That's saying something. Like, if you can get your last pick in the draft on a fringe, it means you're still possibly putting him on the 53.
Exactly.